だが、いけませんな。あの者は正気を失っている。殿下、お逃げになった方が良いでしょ
正気。正気の人間がこの世のどこにいるのだ。皆同じ。皆同じだ。誰もが等しく愛することを知らぬのであろうが、生の意味を知らず、死の意味を知らず、己の戦う意味さえも知らぬ。
殿下。
もういい。もううんざりだ。死を得て代わりに失ったもの、最も大切なもの、そしてそれは生ある限り私たちの手には入らぬもの。手には入らぬ。それでも追い求めよというのか。天の父よ。哀れな戦士、最も愛より尊き者、楽園を追われし者よ。
Hello and welcome to the piece on Canute. I think Canute is how you pronounce it, even though it's spelled Canute. Right. So Canute is one of the most interesting characters in the whole Vinland Saga series. He is based off on a real person, one of the greatest kings, or rather emperor, because he held three kingdoms. So he held the Kingdom of Norway, Kingdom of Denmark, and Kingdom of England. So he's based on King Knut the Great, or Emperor Knut the Great. I don't know what his um, royal name was after all, because he held three kingdoms, as I've already stated. So he's one of the most influential figures in the early British history. He is the one that basically fully completed the what you call it, the Danish conquest of England, historically, and in the series as well. Yeah, you'll see in a minute. So, let's talk about the in-series character and maybe across the video draw some comparison to his real-life counterpart, because a lot of his actions and what happens to him, I mean a lot, some of it is based in reality. So we'll first off start by explaining how Knut was when he was introduced. He was introduced by the super shy, super timid, very cowardly prince, mostly because his own father, King Sweyn, never really paid attention to him or loved him in any capacity. Outright, when talking to vassals and other people of his kingdom, he expressed his utmost love for Knut, but in fact, he never really cared for him since he was a second child, and he wasn't, I don't know, brutish by nature. He was a little frail. He was very sickly as a kid. He had the appearance of a woman, as most characters noted when first gazing upon him, because for the first, I think, two episodes when he appeared in the first season, he was wearing this helmet with some wings on it, so nobody actually saw his facial features, only his eyes, which were very woman-like, to be fair, and his whole appearance is woman-like for that time period, of course. So this guy who was sheltered by his adoptive father, adoptive father, because Knut saw his guardian as his adoptive father, Ragnar, a man who was entrusted with caring for Knut early on, and who grew to treat him and love him like his own son. And Knut, in the same capacity, loved him as a father. I think at one point during a tragic event, he even says that he is his real father, not King Sweyn. A lot of season one is focused on Knut's pairing with Thorfinn and his tenure with the Askeladd's mercenary company, and how he slowly breaks out of his shell. I think Thorfinn actually was the first character to make him speak because he was completely mute, relying only on Ragnar to speak on his behalf. So Thorfinn was actually the first character in the whole series to make Knut talk, to the astonishment of the whole company, because they weren't used to that, right? A very interesting fact about him, he is introduced as a Christian prince. At that time, most of the Norse were pagans. They believed in their old gods, but not Knut. Knut was a Christian, and he embodied the virtues of Christianity to an extent at least. Um, right. Let's not try and get too spoilery. Probably there will be spoilers. So, when traveling with Askeladd's mercenary company, Askeladd notices the um, obsessive sheltering uh, of Knut because Ragnar wouldn't allow him to grow, wouldn't allow him to put himself in danger or do anything by himself out of the fear that he might get injured or something bad might be happening to him. So Askeladd, at some point after traveling with the prince for quite a few weeks, I believe, devised a plan to just break him out of his shell. The plan succeeds. I won't be spoiling how, but yeah, prepare your tissues. That's the only minor spoiler that I will give you. And basically, this changes Knut a lot. From this timid, cowardly person, he suddenly and very abruptly emerges like a very, I don't know, assertive person, a very assertive, a very sure of himself person. Because the thing is, spoilers abound. So I'll probably add a text or something. So, spoilers, Askeladd resolves to killing Ragnar. A fact that even Ragnar recognizes as being in Knut's favor in a way.
なくなる。お前生きて。これは夢なのだな。なくなる。
はい、お別れを申し上げに参りました。
行くのか、僕を残して。僕一人でこんな世界で生きてゆけというのか。生きてゆけると思うのか。
私めはあなた様の教育係として失格でした。あなた様をヤルルとしてではなく、ごく普通の、それこそ農民が我が子を育てるがごとくにしてまいりました。それが陛下のお望みではないと知りつつ、お許しください。
何がいけないのだ。お前は父王陛下より僕自身の望みを汲んでくれた。桶になど生まれたくなかった。
And with his dying breath, Ragnar entrusts Knut into Askeladd's service, or rather, into Askeladd's care. And Askeladd agrees to that. So what happens next is that when Knut learns of Ragnar's fate, he withdraws even more into himself, much to the um, what you call it? Amazement? Not amazement, but much to the let's say amazement of Bjorn, who was starting to doubt Askeladd's plan, but Askeladd was steadfast. Moving things forward, some things happen when Askeladd is kind of in a very tight spot, being pursued by Torkel, being betrayed by his own man, and that's when Knut receives, I think, a blow to his head, or rather, he hurts himself and falls into a sort of slash trance, where he dreams of Ragnar. Upon upon that dream's end, he literally emerges as another person. He finally finds um, a scope in this world, a reason for him to carry on, a reason for him, or rather, a goal to aspire to, and to try and accomplish. When that happens, he just changes himself. So Bjorn is in berserker mode. Knut just gets up from his dream, looks at Bjorn, goes to him, and tells him to stop. He he basically tells a berserk Bjorn to stop. What does Bjorn do? He stops. He stops and bows. Everybody was shocked because Bjorn, when in berserker state, he just kills anybody around him, and he was going for Knut at that time. Knut just stepped forward and was like, "Stop! You're entering my service." And Bjorn reverts back to normal. His whole bloodlust disappears. I think Knut actually holds him in his like hugs him, and Bjorn reverts to his normal self, like suddenly. Then he goes back to where Askeladd is at, alongside Torkel. And at that point, Torkel was following the young prince around, trying to capture him back. And he just goes up to Torkel and says, "From now on, you're in my service. You will try to make me accomplish my dream." Torkel, upon seeing his eyes and his resolve, is like, "Will that get me to the king?" Knut says, "Yes, I will get you to the king, so you can fight the king." Torkel thinks, and he's like, "Okay then, I mean, I'm at your service, prince. This is it." So he basically resolved a major plot line, or rather a major plot point throughout the first season like that, in mere seconds. I'm trying to not to make this video too long. So they go back to the king, and he notices Knut's change. That that's when the king has tried repeatedly to get Knut killed. That's the main point of the first whole season, his introduction. So the king tried to get him killed. Now that he sees the change in what you call it, in Knut's behavior and overall demeanor, he finally sees him as a real threat. So he's no longer his second unwanted and unneeded child. He is, in fact, a problem for him because he now has the mental capacity and and he's in that mental place that he can provide the challenge to him. Then Knut devises a plan with Askeladd, Thorfinn, and the others, and one thing leads to another in a sort of twisted set of events, and the king ends up dead. Askeladd is the perpetrator, per, perpetrator, perpetrator. Let's go with that. Probably is pronounced wrong. This is it. I'm an idiot, and it's very late, and I'm super tired. So perpetrator. This will have to suffice. Basically, Askeladd commits the crime. So now Knut understands that Askeladd sacrificed himself partly for his sake, and he decides to just kill Askeladd himself. When killing Askeladd, this elevates Knut to a very high position in society because he avenged his father, he avenged the king's killer, and in a very warlike society like the Norse, him avenging his father with his own hands is seen like with a very high level of respect. He literally sought revenge and got it himself without ordering people around, without relying on others. No, he killed Askeladd himself. But then, when just as Askeladd was dying, he Thorfinn goes to Askeladd's side, screaming at him and trying to get him back to life. So, what can Knut say or do right now? Because Thorfinn is now an enemy of the state. He is an enemy of his by any accounts because he's basically supporting and rooting for and trying to make sure that the person who killed the king will survive. So he resolves himself to just selling Thorfinn into slavery. Yep, that's it. That's the that's the finale of season one and what he does. Next season two, because this is where you see an even greater shift in his personality.
人を刺したのは初めてか、王子よ。上出来だ。
おい、ハセラット。
おい、やれ。やったのか。天下だ、天下が。ちゃんと立ってろ。ここが肝心だろうが。お前のための舞台だ。無駄にするなよ。
おい、ハゲ。
Everything changes, however, in the second season. In the second season, he's a little more grown up. I think it's been 3 years time skip or 2 years or something like that. His appearance has changed. His long hair has been replaced by short, spiky-ish hair. Not really spiky hair, but very short, identically shorter hair. He has a beard going on. He has a scar that Thorfinn gave him previously when the whole incident with Askeladd happened. And yeah, his demeanor is completely different. He has a new entourage. He is followed by his most trusted guard called Rolf. He is much more involved with his sister, and nothing out of the ordinary. She just attends him. That's about it. She marries someone in his entourage a little further on in the manga, from what I read. But by now, nothing of the sort. Um, yeah. So his actions and everything is very different than the first season. First of all, he does some despicable things. For example, trying to steal the land of a wealthy merchant, basically destroying his whole family in the process and the tranquility of that farm. It's not a merchant, it's a farm owner, sorry. He poisons his own brother only to take control of Denmark. I think Denmark, if I remember correctly. But the thing is, in real life, his brother died of a mysterious illness, but there was no links to Knut being the behind it or it being an assassination. It was just an illness. I understand why they did this. For the anime, it adds a little bit more flavor. It adds a little bit more conflict and characterization for this new Knut, but at the same time, it feels unnecessary, and it really doesn't fall in line with the character. He has this mindset like he wants to achieve a peaceful land for paradise on Earth for Vikings. So this is another big thing about his character. I've talked about how at first he was a servant of God, he was a Christian. Following Ragnar's death, he shifts completely from that and understands that God is never gonna give him a paradise on Earth. So, in an act of defiance against God, he resolves to create a paradise on Earth for his brethren, for the Vikings, just so that they will not be these bloodthirsty murderers any longer. And it's more an act of defiance against God and coming from his newfound hatred for him. Yeah, it's quite interesting how he shifts from being the perfect altar boy to basically scorning God and declaring in his face, basically in front of a church, that he's gonna be doing what God doesn't want to do, and he will be doing that and throwing it in his face. Like, I'm gonna do that. There's no stopping me. F you, man. F you. That, this is Knut. So this is Knut's biggest change. His shift from his old moral code to this new, basically, amoral code. I think he's amoral. He's not immoral. He's amoral. He's willing to do some evil shit like murdering his brother, destroying a family just for funding one of his expeditions, and his army is in England.
ゆるりとお休みくださいませ。王国のことは何も心配はございません。
そなたを待っていた。そなたにそなたにデンマークを譲る。
滅相なことを申されますな、ハラルド王。早くお元気になって、また玉打ち遊びにでも興じましょうぞ。
大したものだな、クヌート。よくもそ知らぬ顔でそんな嘘がつけるものだ。
兄様？
自身が毒を持った相手を見舞うか。とんだ茶番だな。それでお前は一体何を成し遂げるというのだ。ハラルドはそなたに好意的であった。なぜ殺す必要がある。共に世を治めることもできたはずだ。王道楽土のためなどではない。そなたの心には野心が宿っておる。北海の帝王たらんという野心がな。
Yeah, this wouldn't have been Knut in the first season. I really like this shift. I really like this change. He's one of the characters that changed the most. I think he is the character that changed the most throughout the seasons, Thorfinn included. Because Thorfinn is still very lackluster as a character. He just went from one extreme to the other, whilst Knut has actually is still threading the same line, only on the different barricade of it, in my own opinion. So I think while Thorfinn's change is unnatural, and I really feel it is unnatural, uh, Knut's one makes a lot of sense. His mentor gets killed, basically his whole world is shaken. So it would be normal that his belief in God would be tested, and he comes to the conclusion that nope, God is a no-go, don't like him. I will be creating the paradise on earth, not him. And I will throw it in his face, and I'm basically throwing it in his face right now. This is the Knut, and it's a much more interesting Knut. It's a much more Machiavellian Knut, using Machiavellian before Machiavelli was a thing, right? Because it's 300, 400 years before Machiavelli. But he is much more ruthless, much more not cruel. He's not cruel. He's never cruel. He's just ruthless and willing to go at greater lengths to accomplish his goals. I think it sparks for an interesting character arc. Again, much more interesting than Thorfinn's. But that's only me, I guess. So yeah, basically that's base almost all that he does. He actually shows that he is a much more prolific fighter. He's been training. He's been training with Rolf. Rolf is a very good fighter. He's a skilled one, and he's shown Knut is showing some improvements in that regard. He's not by any means a master at it, but he's good, and that is shown in a duel against Rolf and a sort of sneak attack further on in the story towards the end of the season where he gets attacked by a fucking menace of a man. One of the most powerful characters in the series by far. I think almost as powerful as Torkel. So he gets sneak attacked by that guy. He survives the first flurry of hits, but then just as he's about to be killed, Rolf comes to his rescue, losing an eye in the process, which is a darn shame. Then again, after the whole trying to take the land from the from the landowner, he finally comes face to face with Thorfinn in an amazing, amazing way. I'm not gonna spoil that. Basically, Thorfinn does one of those miracles that you find in animes, and he manages to gain an audience with Knut, who doesn't want initially an audience with Thorfinn. After speaking for a while, retorting and just bantering, and Knut saying that no, my way is better, and Thorfinn being like, no, 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 my way is better, my friend. No, 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 I insist, my dear man, my way is better. No, no, you refined connoisseur, my way is way better. They reach an accord. They realize at some point, after a very, very drawn out dialogue, that they actually want to do the same thing. Thorfinn wants to create a paradise for Vikings, but in Vinland, whilst Knut tries to forge by his own hands a paradise for Vikings where they are right now. So they come to an accord. Knut decides to leave the family alone after all, leave the land alone, and try and do things in a sort of morally better way moving forward. But then again, I don't think it is the case. I think only because he respected Thorfinn that he left the family alone. And basically, they come to this conclusion that whoever is not welcome in Knut's new world order, basically for Vikings, will be free and encouraged to join Thorfinn in his new world for Vikings, and vice versa. Who is not welcome in Thorfinn's is free to join Knut. So basically, they decide in this way to kind of work together to that goal. It's a pretty strange dialogue and a pretty strange conclusion, in my opinion, but it works for the story, so who am I to judge it? I think it's been drawn out a little bit, the video, so I'll end things here. I think Knut is one of the best characters in the series. I think he's the second best actually after Askeladd. And yeah, he's a very complex character. His mental shift is just amazing. And I think the best thing about the mental shift is not only is it amazing, but it is also likely or understandable. So that's a very important focus. It's not forced. It's not forced upon the story only as a plot device to move the story forward. it actually makes sense both conceptually and yeah, only conceptually, and of course in execution. So both conceptually and in execution, everything makes sense about his dramatic shift. My only complaint about what the story did to him was murdering his own brother, because I don't think he would have done that.
愚かなり我が息子、未だ王になりきれぬか。なぜあのような下船の者どもにそなたの心情を明かしたのだ。よもや理解し合えるなどと思うたのではあるまいな。奴らは哀れな羊の群れ。そなたは孤高の羊飼いなのだ。奴らを育て、間引き、皮を剥ぐ。羊飼いの仕事がどうして羊に理解できようか。支配あるのみだ。それが何より羊のためなのだ。
クヌート、お前が権力に任せて無茶を通すつもりなら
殺せ。あの男は危険だ。一頭の羊が群れを惑わし、断崖へ走らせることもあるのだ。
俺は
殺せ。王の務めを果たせ。
俺は逃げる。逃げるだけか。それだけか。他に何ができる。ここでお前と差し違えろってのかよ。お前の言う楽土ってのは多くの人を助けて少しの人を虐げる、そういうたちのものなんだろう。俺にはそれがいいことか悪いことかわからないし、お前の無茶を責める資格もない。だからもう逃げるしかないだろ。エイナル、行こう。そなたは優れた戦士だ。他にも術があろう。そなたはこの帝王の前へただ諫言をしに来たのか。そんな顔になってまで。
For murdering his brother, he feels no guilt whatsoever. He uses that to justify his actions, perhaps even to himself, because it doesn't act only as a justification, or rather, it doesn't act as a justification to others. It only acts as justification for himself, for doing these actions. They are very much against his character. So his character is virtually the same as it was before, but now he uses some sort of, I don't know, contraption, convention, whatever you want to call it, but this very bendy logic that he employs in order to enable him to make these decisions that he would otherwise be unable to. What happens at the end of this season is amazing. After the discussions with Thorfinn, what Knut does is disband his armies in England, and because he couldn't maintain them any longer, and he couldn't refrain them from pillaging any further, because if they're not paid, they're gonna pillage and rape. So he disbands them, and to his and everybody's surprise, actually the English people band together under his rule and start praising him and loving him more, because he showed them in their opinion, he showed them that he now trusts them, that he no longer requires force to coerce them, and they perceive this as being a sort of respect towards them, a sort of form of respect, a form of, okay, I'm now one of you. I'm your ruler. I'm not your jailer any longer. I am your ruler. I am your king. I'm going to work tirelessly for you, not for me or for Denmark. So that's the thing. Now, it's not only him being seen as a Viking invader. He disbanded his armies. He has no armies in England, but so now he is their king. He is an English king, an England king, not English king. He's not English. A king of England. He's no longer a foreign invader. I hope that made sense. It made sense in my head. Hope I conveyed that to you. Leave it out in the comments if I didn't, because yeah, I might have not conveyed it properly, but we'll see what you think about it. This would be all for today. I leave you with again a closing video as you're used to in these pieces that I do. Basically, I have an intro piece that should tell you something about the character that we're talking about, and the outro is a conclusion of sorts of that character, a epic moment that defines the character throughout the story. See you, love you. If you like the video, just leave out a comment. What do you think of the series? What do you think of Knut? Do you want me to follow or rather talk about other characters? Drop a like, a subscribe is very much welcome, but of course, no pushing you, no forcing you to do it. So, thank you for joining in. Love you guys. You are amazing.
世と駆け引きをしたがる者は多い。罠にはめようとする者も。だが、なんだそなたは。大バカ者め。何の切り札もないのか。寸鉄も帯びず、散々殴られ、農場接種をやめろと言いに来ただけか。そんなに面白いかよ。面白い。これほどくだらない和平交渉は初めてだ。逃げるか。ああ。バイキングの中からこのような男が生まれうるのか。美しい男だ。争いを離れ、どこへ逃げる。ここじゃないどこかだ。お前に教えることはできない。我が藩とは広がり続けている。やがてそこにも世の力が及ぶかもしれぬぞ。逃げられるだけ逃げてやるさ。逃げる先があるうちは俺は戦わない。王の力が届かない場所にお前とは違うやり方で平和な国を作るよ。お前の作る世界では生きていけない人たちのために、お前と俺自身のためにも。世の事業の埋められぬ穴をそなたが埋めるというのか。できるのか、そなたに。俺の力はお前よりずっと小さいんだ。あんまりでかい穴は手に負えねえ。お前がこの調子で人々を迫害し続けるなら、そのうち誰にもお前を助けることはできなくなる。お前も努力しろ。
俺の仕事を増やすな。
まったく口が回るようになったものだ。誰に似たのであろうな。面白い。これほど難しい和平交渉は初めてだ。